Universal Studios is facing a lawsuit of epic proportions against Stardust Racers, one of their roller coasters. And up until this point, we haven't talked about it because it involves the loss of life. But today, we must discuss what's going on because the family's lawsuit, we believe, could alter the way that theme parks all over North America operate. Hello and welcome back, boys and girls. Come one, come all. It's time to heed the call for understanding entertainment. And today, we've got a big story. It's one that you need to know. Your future visits to theme parks could be altered forever if a lawsuit goes forward and wins versus Universal. But are the winds of change on the way, or is this a lawsuit that might be going away? We've got stories, we've got info. Folks, we'll let you know what you need to know. Click the like button, and here we go. All right, in case you don't know, we're gonna set the table for you. Some people don't know this. Universal, this is out of CNN. Universal to reopen Stardust Racers ride 2 weeks after man's death. It's by the Associated Press, which means I don't know why it's on CNN and not the Associated Press. It's not like you go to CNN to get a signal boost, AP. Universal Orlando Resort plans to reopen its Stardust Racers ride at Epic Universe. They did. This is a little bit old, but we just needed to bring this out to you. And so Karen Irwin, the president and chief operating officer at Universal Orlando Resort, said Friday in a memo to workers, basically that everything had been tested, checked, regulators had come in, the state had come in, inspections had happened, and the ride was safe and is safe. And so I can't tell you if that's true or not. I can tell you that personally, I would get on Stardust Racers. I got no problem doing that. And if you decide what you want to do. Now, all that said, we're going to go to this. This is Ben Crump. And Ben Crump and another attorney are representing the family of the man who passed away. The man who passed away was someone who used a wheelchair and it appears had some health concerns, okay? Being very careful how we talk about this because we never want to make light of anybody who passes away. That farthest thing from what we would do here. And I will tell you that I have been struck by how imprecise and inappropriate some of the commentary has been online regarding this. I don't know why I'm still, shocked when I see some of this stuff, but people with large followings, I think, have used uncautious language. So I'm going to play this for you. This is a press gathering where Ben Crump, who's the attorney, is going to speak about the man who passed away and about the lawsuit his family now has against Universal Studios. And I'm going to pause it at a very particular place because you need to see this. This has now morphed into a lawsuit that, if it were successful, would change not just Universal, but all theme parks in North America.
Can't hear anything.
It's very quiet.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and relay what.
Yeah, you might need to say, because even when I had the audio turned all the way up, the only thing we're catching is the guy speaking from the audience asking a question, and however that microphone that's sitting up there happens to be picking.
Yeah. So, and the reason we're playing it, folks, is because we're not going to edit this. But I wanted you to see when the man asked the question. I'm going to tell you what the question was, and then we'll continue to play it. But we're not going to edit this. There's no funny business, no tricks. There's a person on the left side of the camera who asked the question. I'm assuming it's a journalist who asks, can you tell us, did the man who passed away, did he have any pre-existing health conditions? That's the question. And that's why this is going to have such an impact on theme parks. Get ready for the answer. Okay, so the attorney has this look on his face about pre-existing conditions. Did the man who passed away have pre-existing conditions?
He was fine. He was disabled, but he was.
Is this getting louder, guys? This is really quiet in my ear for some reason.
Really quiet.
Okay, we'll amplify this.
I heard him say he was disabled, but
let me see if we can. No, it won't give me CCs either. Won't give me closed captions. We'll play through. We'll run with this. What we've got. I'll say it. So, and it's about to get really loud. Here we go.
No.
Can I answer that? The fact that people are.
So Ben Crump yells, no, no, no. This other attorney comes in. The answer to the question, did the man have any pre-existing health concerns? This other attorney then steps in after he yells no.
Are asking that and knowing that he was in a wheelchair, that means that so vague that it was not a clear warning.
And so she says then, and just for those who might not be able to hear this, she then replies and says, for you to ask that, knowing that he was in a wheelchair, and then she seems to kind of pivot the answer, that was so vague as to not have any meaning. So the claim is being made, and apologies on the audio, folks, never know sometimes what's going to happen here. We do have some technical issues sometimes. But the way she's answering this is that it lends people to believe now that pre-existing conditions were there. I mean, there's a wheelchair. And her response is that it appeared to me, her response might be that the signage across Universal Studios that says, if you have pre-existing health conditions, don't ride, that's vague. Now, the problem is every theme park in North America uses that kind of signage. So, like, for example, I was in Dollywood recently. Every roller coaster at Dollywood has signs, that say, if you're pregnant, don't ride. If you have pre-existing health conditions, don't ride. If you have a heart condition, don't ride. Like, they list out all this stuff. The claim now, it seems to me, being made by this man's legal team or his family's legal team is that whether or not he had pre-existing health conditions, that the warnings are vague. Guys, if that's what's going to be the claim, I don't want to weigh in on whether or not they've got a winning strategy here, but whether or not that is a winning strategy, if they were to win on that, I don't know how we could operate roller coasters in any theme park around North America. That's how that would be I don't know how we would go forward if having warnings like that aren't sufficient. What do you guys think about this? And be careful how we talk about it, simply because we are dealing with a tragedy.
I've been at Epic Universe within the last, I'll say a little bit longer than a week. And if you look at the warning signs, the literal signs that are there to warn you at the park, because sometimes when we say that word, we just mean troublesome things that you see. They not only go through every specific thing that you should be aware of, they also have a little QR code at the bottom that says hola, salud, and some other language as well to say hello, to say, if you don't understand this in English, here it is in the language of your choosing. Please read these warning signs in another language. There is only so much that can be done to warn a person. If they put nutrition facts on the backside of every single piece of food sold in the United States, and someone says, well, how was I supposed to know those nutrition facts are on everything? I have basically ignored them. I don't think that's fair. One, because at what point do people ignoring the warnings become noise, and white noise, I should say, at that? And at what point do we have to have some kind of personal responsibility here? Now, I am not saying that about this gentleman who lost his life. I'm saying this about the legal argument that warning signs are essentially useless from a legal standard. That is very tenuous, and that is a huge problem going forward, because that means that no warning sign is important if they can't be held accountable for the warning signs.
Now, Jonas, you and Vash covered this in great detail on a video on That Park Place. Give us a synopsis of what this case is about.
Well, the video on That Park Place that came out this morning is more about the changes that have been made and what that will mean for the rest of the guests.
All right, talk to us about that then. What do you got?
They're making changes to 6 rides, the procedures for 6 different attractions at Universal Orlando Resort. You used to have to take one step into the ride, and you could have assistance in doing that on these 6 attractions. It's now been changed to where you have to take more than one step under your own power for most of these rides going forward. It gets really specific, like on Hagrid's motorbike and whatever the 12 words that follow those in that title. You can be sitting in the on the motorcycle portion, but you have to be able to get into the sidecar. If you want to sit in the sidecar, you can get assistance. So this makes it to where a lot of people who were able to get into the attractions with one step are not necessarily able to get into there with two steps. Vash really put it well when he talked about the envelope for who is able to be on these attractions safely. You have to be at least a certain height. You have to be under a certain height. You have to be able to fit within the restraints. And there are so many conditions that when you have these intense roller coasters, and they are advertised and marketed on the idea that they're intense roller coasters, the more intense those roller coasters are, the more for safety they have to say, well, you need to at least be this. You cannot be above this in order to ride this ride. So if we want this disqualifies attractions from existing if they have to be safe enough that there is never any issue. Basically pointing to the idea of having, I don't know, VR experiences. But if those VR experiences also can't give you motion sickness, well, forget about that. They're just going to describe the ride to you.
Well, I see that Vash has joined us, and I'm going to enter into a world of theory just for a moment, okay? And then Vash, you give me your thoughts on this.
Yep.
So completely separate from this case, just into a land of theory. There is a situation across theme parks, it seems to me, where the ride operators and the employees are not allowed to ask people private questions about their medical health. And so it's up to the individual to read all those warnings and decide whether or not they are medically capable of being on a ride. Now, in a world of theory, it is therefore possible, and was possible maybe, for someone who is medically fragile to get into a ride without a strong, system of questions from a cast member or an employee or whatever, to get onto a ride. They're, again, medically fragile. And then in a medically fragile state, if you're on a roller coaster that has up and down hills and that kind of stuff, you all know that if you lost consciousness, that, you would have all kinds of movements. And if you are a fragile individual, that might not be something you would survive if you're extremely medically fragile. But Vash, we've always understood that it's incumbent upon the individual and a family to figure out, hey, should I be on this thing? Because cast members, if your doctor just told you that, the day before, hey, you've got a real heart problem, like you've got a serious heart problem, cast members can't ask you about that. Employees of theme parks can't come up to you and say, do you have, like yesterday, did you have a serious heart procedure done? They don't know that. There's no way to know that. So Vash, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I think that's why Ben Crump reacted the way he did, and I think that's what the reporter who was asking that question was trying to determine whether or not this gentleman had a pre-existing condition that would have otherwise prevented him from riding, as it clearly states in their safety information. I want to go ahead and clarify just a couple of things. The six rides that are featured as part of this operational change. They actually do list these in their PDF documentation that they provide here. You can see that Universal Epic Universe
have they provided this publicly, Vash?
Yes, this is public.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not pulling it. Yeah, got it.
No problem. Guests using mobility devices must be able to walk independently. That's the big change right here. That now includes Dragon Racers Rally, Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment, Stardust Racers, and if you look at the accessibility guide for Universal Orlando Resort, you can see right here, Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure, motorbike only, by the way, Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, and Jurassic World Velocicoaster. And previously, they would provide, in some cases, a bench or a mobility assistance tool so that people could actually transfer. Now, the thought process is that, well, maybe they don't provide this at all. If in the circumstance of these attractions where you're able to walk independently, you might not actually require these. Previously, the guidance was, okay, well, if you can transfer in either by yourself or with the assistance of a companion, that was okay. Now this whole thing has changed, and I want to go ahead and mark that back in 2011, a gentleman named James Hackemer, which was a double amputee veteran from the Iraq War there, he rode a Ride of Steel roller coaster in New York, and it was one of these things where the guidance for this roller coaster explicitly stated that you had to have both your legs. He unfortunately did not. The employee led him on thinking that it was going to be a big deal. There was no over the over the shoulder restraints present, and unfortunately, he was thrown from that coaster.
You mean it was a lap bar only?
It was a lap bar only,
Yeah.
and he didn't make it from that ride, unfortunately. So, in one sense, if it is observable by a team member, where they can observe, hey, you don't meet the qualifications for this specific coaster, they can make a judgment call and say, look, you just can't ride. And I think the clarity regarding the PDF guidelines and so forth, that was to address the kind of, okay, can you ride, can you not ride, how do we train team members and so forth.
Right.
Well, now if they can see you walk, you can now ride. But on the flip side, there might have been previously disabled individuals who now don't qualify, who were previously able to ride, that can't. Maybe they have passes themselves, or maybe they like frequenting this resort to ride these specific experiences. Well, now you can't. That envelope is now now reduced.
Right. And listen, when it comes to safety, I put safety ahead of the other stuff. So I hate it for people, but I would rather err on the side of caution. Culture, we've tried to not cover this. We tried very hard to not cover this. But when it gets into a situation of now they're arguing that, hey, just because there are signs that say if you got pre-existing health conditions, that's vague. And it's like, that's going to change everything for theme parks. So Culture, I think we have to weigh in now and say, that's a pretty big legal theory that they're going to attempt maybe.
Yeah, and despite what some people might call that particular attorney in his practices and everything else and the kinds of cases that he looks for, I'll just say this situation having this much effect, or potentially having this much effect on theme parks is going to absolutely destroy them. I think that this was a tragedy. I think it has been or will be dealt with, hopefully in an appropriate manner. But I do believe that you cannot claim that these are vague warnings when they're talking about very specific health concerns around back injuries, neck injuries. You realize I actually have to think about whether or not, I'm in great shape to get on some of these attractions.
Bone density matters, Culture, if you've been told that you're extremely fragile. Yeah.
Ladies, I'm going to tell you that, if you're losing bone density, this is a consideration. And look, I mean, you have people that are undergoing medical treatments that may have potentially risked their health because, well, they may have been, taking chemo or something along the way, or dealing with radiation therapy or a number of other things. I think that this, if anything, will make it clearer to people that they need to be in more concern of their health and not think that they can place that responsibility on the theme parks. Like I said, I mean, trying to make excuses around this, I'm certainly not going to even comment on, but I will say that, I think the warnings are plenty clear. And I think Vash's clarifications of things that are going to have to change, I think they should have been changed long ago. And I think I've mentioned it before. The lap bar accident's one of them. The kids slipping underneath a lap bar is another thing Disney's going to have to review, because they have some ride vehicles that you can enter and exit by just slipping underneath the lap bar, especially if you're in a vehicle with an adult that's a little larger. A little kid can certainly slip, where a lap bar, that would be resting on an adult wouldn't actually ever, come in contact with them. I'm talking Thunder Mountain is one of those, but there's a lot here. And I think that one of the things that this reintroduces is the idea that theme parks are as safe as they can be. Most of the time, the safety has been a massive concern. We talked about the envelope, the rider envelope. Universal. Yeah, we've talked about the rider envelope for Disney and the fact that they had to do some modifications to Big Thunder Mountain. Big Thunder Mountain has had some safety concerns from the very beginning. But then again, we have never had so many irresponsible adults take their kids on things they don't belong on. So I think this should just wake people up. And I think that as uncomfortable as it might be for some team members at Universal and cast members at Disney, they're just going to have to tell people no. And I know that's uncomfortable. but no is the best way to protect the parks and at times protect other guests. Consider that.
And we also, we don't want to blame, cast members or workers at theme parks or anything.
No.
Because, if somebody has a spinal issue,
how would they?
And right, there's if somebody has epilepsy, you don't know that. So it's up to them to figure out if there are signs that say flashing lights on this ride, do not ride. If you have this, I'm sorry. There's just we can't do full blown medical examinations, and so all I can go with on the situation is what the what the investigators have found, and there's no way, folks. If you think Universal will reopen this ride in an unsafe kind of way, if this happened again and there was undue diligence on Universal's part, they would be sued into oblivion. So that's not a reality that is likely. It's like one in a trillion that Universal would actually reopen something with the knowledge, hey, somebody else might kick the bucket. And people who've insinuated that online are just using careless language, in my estimation. Right, Marvin?
Oh, absolutely. Look, this was not only inspected by Universal internally, it was also inspected by the state. And if the state had a safety issue, it would have been known as well. So, yeah, I mean, when you ask, like, were there any pre-existing conditions? I don't think you're allowed to ask such things at a theme park because at the end of the day, HIPAA is a thing. And it's not legal to perform a medical examination, in the loading zone for a theme park attraction. You have to take some personal responsibility for it at that point.
Nor are the ride operators qualified to do so.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
They're not doctors.
Yeah. Also true.
And I think that's why they went with the language they did with this guideline information. In that, hey, look, if you're able to walk, you're able to ride, and that's a fairly straightforward methodology for team members to actually implement and to determine whether or not these people can actually ride these attractions safely. That's why I bring up that previous incident right there. It's just it's unfortunate that the envelope had to be reduced this much, and I do think that this might get into ADA issues and so forth, but that's the determination that Universal's made right now.
Well, and remember, I forget which of the roller coaster makers made Stardust. Is it Intamin or is it Mack or
Mack?
Okay, so Mack has roller coasters all over the world.
Right, many
Granted,
of them.
Other parts of the world are not as litigious as the U.S. of A. But this is going to become the standard everywhere sooner or later. And it's just going to be one of those realities that people with problems have to deal with. And there's lots of other stuff to ride and enjoy and have a good time. Sorry. But that's life. And meanwhile, remember that lawyers, that whole thing, oh, well, that's vague. Lawyers are about suing and getting settlements and getting paid. That is their business. Whatever you think of them, good, bad, or otherwise, they're not health experts either. They pay health experts to be on their side in such suits. The fact that Universal A didn't talk to them first, but instead called in state investigators, called in their own people, did their due diligence, and came up with this policy was the right managemental move by far. And if it means that some people aren't going to be able to have the same freedom of access to these kinds of attractions as they did before, that's a damn shame, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, safety comes first. It is such fun getting to spend time together, folks, but we have come to the end of yet another video. Well, that makes the mainstream scratch their heads, pull their hair out, and wonder, how is it we continue to do what we do? But you know what we do this for? It's for you. To keep bringing all the knowledge of entertainment, explaining what's going on in Hollyweird each and every day. And you can help us continue on that way by clicking the like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to those algorithms. It's the notification bell. Share this out on your favorite social media platforms, and we would love to have you drop a comment right on down below. Share your thoughts because, well, your thoughts truly do matter, and we mean it. As we get ready to say goodbye, we end with the common refrain. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Jump into the water! Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro Channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.